All right, welcome to the Gateway API meeting for February 10th, 2026. The reminder that this is Kubernetes community meeting, so please follow Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which just means please be nice to each other. What I'll say is this is what we expect to be the final community meeting before our 1.5 release candidate goes out. We're targeting a Thursday release candidate, so hopefully that all works out. So let me just transition directly into this release update. I forget, it's a little too early in the morning, but I'll remember. I'll drop a link to the agenda. Hopefully most folks who are here have access to it. But if you don't, there's a link. Please don't hesitate to add things to the agenda. Anyone who wants to is very welcome to add content. And like David is saying, please do raise your hand if you have anything you want to talk about. With that, David.
Yeah, Rob, wouldn't just be okay if I give my shout out right now because I have another appointment to get to?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the team too, especially Ricardo, Rob, Nick, Flynn, and everyone else who worked to get Listener Sets promoted. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, David, I mean, you missed yourself in that.
Yeah, I was gonna
David,
say that.
you put a ton of effort into this. Thank you, is all I can say. Um, yeah, we wouldn't have gotten Listener Set across the line without you continuing to push. I know it was a heavy lift. It was a lot of work. Really, really appreciate the time you put in to get it across. And then Ricardo in particular, I would say everything in this release has some, thanks to Ricardo's efforts. Very, very happy to have Ricardo on board. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, David, for the shout out. Yeah, I really, really appreciate the call out because there's been some awesome work in this release. And actually on that, let me just transition into what is through. I don't want to move things on this board without Flynn's approval, because Flynn is leading the overall release. I am just along for the ride. That's what I would say. But my understanding here is that every single standard gap that is in the needs passing implementations category can now safely be moved to the needs documentation category, which is a huge milestone. If you saw my updates sometime last week, all of them were at risk. And then due to some heroics by many people, but especially Ricardo across the board, we managed to get, I think, all of these across the line. TLS route, lots of folks to thank for this one. Let me just confirm. I understand that we have enough conformant ones. So Nginx and Cilium. So one of the things that we just need for record keeping is that we really need folks to come through, and like we've got implementations reporting on PRs or other places, hey, I passed conformance, and so like in our heads we know, okay, there's enough here, but we don't have that centrally tracked on these issues yet. So in this case we only have a couple of these, but I'm 99% sure I saw in a PR that K-Gateway is passing these tests. So if you're able to help out, just kind of like dropping a comment on these issues, so we don't have to go spelunking to get these formally across the line. But my understanding, based on the past week, is that everything in this list is going to make it across to the needs documentation phase. Of course, with that said, like needs documentation is still another thing that needs to be done. And if a GAP does not manage to get documentation in time, then it will still be removed from release. So it's not a sure thing, but documentation is a very solvable thing to I'd hate for something to miss release just for lack of docs. Yeah, let me catch up. I see there's a few things in chat. And yes, Keith's point, yes, always conformance reports from pre-release versions are completely valid and accepted for the sake of promotion, right? Like for the sake of basically a dev, a build on main, right? Or whatever branch it is, just showing, hey, this project is capable of passing these conformance tests is all the signal that we need. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all. Ricardo, do you want to add anything on the release?
No, I think one of the things that it's not on the board, but we've been doing on the background, it's a reference grant has also been promoted to V1. I think we merged that. I hope so.
Yeah.
I didn't check that. Yeah, and so we are gonna have 5 features plus reference grant. I think we are on a good track now. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right, and then let's just another reminder. This is for Becca. I don't know if Becca's at this one, but you've likely seen this floating around. If you're going to be able to make it to KubeCon in Amsterdam this year, we have a dev summit planned on the Monday before KubeCon sticks off, or the Monday after Maintainer Summit, depending on how you want to look at it. If you're interested, we do have limited spaces, but please, get your name in there so we can prepare appropriately. There's no cost to show up. This is just going to be at the Google office. And if you're in the area, you don't even need a KubeCon ticket. You just need to be part of the Gateway API community. Yeah. And I'll leave it with that. Keith, let's talk about your backend GEP.
Yeah, thanks. Wasn't not necessarily planning to rehash the entire discussion, but more of an FYI that I've submitted a draft yet for the backend resource that I've talked about here a couple of times. Talked about it in agentic networking, but this is a resource that is sort of has come out of the working group AI Gateway, the AI Gateway working group. And as a working group, we don't own code. Our goal is to try to do research into these use cases and to come up with proposals and APIs, prototype them, and then bring them to the place that they need to live eventually. And for this egress use case in backend, Gateway API is the natural home for this kind of thing. So zooming all the way out, TLDR, Gateway API today doesn't really have a clear way for gateways to think about sort of egress functionality, whether that is in a mesh context or from an ingress going to some external destination. And backend seeks to try to do that. We've got a prototype in AI Gateway where we're got at least one request passing. We're continuing to iterate, but I wanted to bring out some of the core design principles, some of the core shape of the resource here at Gateway API, and start this track and focus on some of the generic egress things. And then AI Gateway spend most of our time talking about the AI specific use cases here. So there's no issue for this yet. It's still sort of which is why it's SCEP XXX. Still really early. Big goal here is to get more feedback on some of the concerns that have been raised in the past. I've tried to address them, specifically the TLS inlining and the sort of the concerns around FTDN Routing in Kubernetes, I've got sections on both of those. So uh, this next, I might have pushed the latest. I thought I refactored that backend in index ND. But anyway, please take a look, and yeah, love to hear from you.
Awesome.
Oh yeah,
This
some
is
duplicate.
did other people have okay, no. Uh Hopefully I'm not cutting the line. Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Keith, for getting this kicked off. I've been following, but not well, the working group evolution here, and I missed things along the way. Let me refresh to see if anything significant. One of the things I was surprised by just glancing at this now is external destination. Okay, so this is external destinations. I saw earlier. Does this also support services as backends, or is that just a
Oh,
previous version?
yes. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. So I had an old version of the doc as backend.md and just it stuck around. So yeah, it's service and external destinations. Um,
Okay. So what would in the case of service, what would you in what cases would you put this in front of a service, basically? Uh, Maybe that's a dumb question, but like I'm thinking like very, very much in the gateway context where you have like gateway route backend, and this feels like backend feels like analogous to service. But what I'm seeing here is like backend could actually be in front of service. So maybe my mental
yes.
model is wrong here, that it's not like the same level as service. It's actually like something like in between, maybe. I don't know.
So the reason you would put it in front of a service is if you wanted to take advantage, and this is sort of getting into the long tail some of the AI use cases, maybe, but that's the ones that come to my mind. If you had a service that's doing like MCP, or you have a service, well, technically back in CS policy covers a lot of that, but like if you wanted to just be able to target the endpoints of a service without the confusion of that sort of dual role, that's sort of what backend represents. And so this is why I submitted the PR. In a way, we're trying to do two things. I think I'm trying to do two things with this, which is risky. I completely acknowledge that. Um, but I think because of we see a big hole with external destinations in Kubernetes, and backend definitely solves that. What we also see is a lot of effort to try to decompose service, and I think backend is also trying to do that, right? As we talked about in the past, backend is just meant to be that backend role of a service for consumers only. And today, you can't send to endpoints without having a service. Um, Long term, I imagine like I realized the other day there's actually already sort of this endpoint selector idea developing in Gateway API. I can imagine a backend of type endpoint selector that will allow you to send to sort of an arbitrary endpoints. And if that gets along, then maybe we don't need service. And so I'd be totally fine moving that scope. Um, if it makes things cleaner. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Rob.
I think
Yeah.
so. I'll defer to Leor, but I'll just mention real quick that I am trying to get that endpoint selector kicked off again. We'll see. We'll see if I'm successful there. But that's definitely a feature that I want.
Can you share any more on that?
I all I can say is I'm trying. That's it's the process of trying to find the prioritization internally, but it is definitely something I want to see. So yeah,
Cool. Yeah, we'd love to see any like docs or anything as that develops.
yeah, absolutely.
Wait, Keith, well, question: if you're targeting like the backends of the endpoints of a service, why pick service instead of endpoint slice or endpoint slice? Other than that they're auto generated, so you don't know what their name is going to be.
that's pretty much the reason, right? Like
Okay.
we trying to do arbitrary endpoint slices in Kubernetes is doable, but it means you're writing a controller to do it. And we're seeing a growing number of use cases where I think about inference pool being just the latest of one of these cases where it's a CRD that got created because we didn't like inference pool didn't want to have an IP address because they didn't want people accessing it with native kubeproxy load balancing. You don't want a DNS name. You just want a collection of things. And so it's up to implementations in a lot of cases and I think in all the cases actually, to provide the actual endpoint slices for an inference pool. The way Istio does this is it creates a literal service in the cluster so that endpoint slices get created. Um, if I'm just out here dreaming, I can imagine a situation where in Kubernetes, you can do that by creating a backend. Instead of having to get all this other machinery, you create a backend resource of type endpoint selector, or you just create an endpoint selector and you get the set of endpoints. A lot of this, I submitted this, and then like yesterday I was preparing, I saw that there's this endpoint selector idea already starting off in Mesh, which I'll be honest, causing me to rethink, okay, maybe we don't need to have the service intermediary for a little bit if we have something like this already. But that's the thinking at least.
Okay, cool.
Yep, go ahead, Lior.
I think what I wanted to say is already obsolete after a lot of discussion. So, yeah, I think one small part is like, I think in the context of this proposal, and I admit I think last time I checked this proposal probably at least 3 weeks ago or 4. I think that the nicest part, at least for the experimentation in my mind, and obviously there's a ton of questions about there's interoperate and everything, but like the nicest part is that for these AI use cases, you would just use a backend. Like you wouldn't need to decide, oh, I use service or I use that. And like you would just have a backend regardless of whether you're representing something inside or outside a cluster, which I think is at least nice for the first part. And I think the other thing, correct me, Keith, if I'm wrong, is the backend capable of selecting services by label or just referencing to one service? Like, do you have a service selector there?
No, referencing one service. And the idea there was sort of this compatibility layer, right? Where if you've got a service inside the cluster that's already created, you could have sort of this disambiguated selection of just the backend. It's sort of a cleaner, in my mind, semantic thing. Again, as I've been learning more about this endpoint selector work that's gotten kicked off and or at least theorized, and I I'm wondering if we need it. Also, seeing a lot of these TLS things start percolating back in TLS policy with TLS route. A lot of these use cases actually being solved with service. Maybe this is it might actually end up being cleaner because one thing that's not in this version, um, that's in the work in the AI gateway version is sort of how does backend fit? And I want to wait for the release to be done so I can see the state of what standard, what to adapt my proposal. But it might end up that we really just have to throw this backend stack with inline TLS for external destinations and endpoint selector, and then the service stack with backend TLS policy, et cetera. Not sure yet. Need to sort of get a double check in on the release and see what's out there.
Well, more naive question, like what's the plan? Say this gets in, like how do you guys plan to get some feedback, like where and how this would be used? Do you have any intermediate plan for this? Not intermediate, immediate.
Yes, great question. So first place outlook for feedback are the working group AI Gateway and the Kubernetes networking sort of that's the sub-project one's a working group. Because right now there are sort of two backends. One is sort of this like an MCP backend piece, and the other is basically this resource. I'd love to see, and this is part of my goal in putting some gateway APIs. I'd love for the Kubernetes networking folks, Leo, I know you're involved there. Rob, I know you're involved there. Others are involved there. I want to make sure that we're able, that I can see what you folks need and integrate that into the proposal. For example, here MCP is a protocol and not sort of this top level I think it's like a top level union. I need to double check the thing, but like that's part of what went into this. Like I want to be able to help. I want to make sure we can address the use cases y'all have, so it can be sort of one common resource. Um, Both projects have prototypes. I'd like to see this implemented in those prototypes. Um, and then of course there are implementations. So like I work with Istio. Istio has support for Envoy as a data plane. It's adding support for Agent Gateway as a data plane. We could go and implement those there fairly simply. Agent Gateway's got a backend sort of data type in its data model already in the proxy, and then Envoy, we've sort of got a early POC prototype in Working Group AI Gateway. So I think there's a clear I feel comfortable there's a clear path from provisional or implementable GEP into having actual implementations, prototypes, and actual fully conforming implementations support this. Just need to figure out what the exact shape looks like.
Cool. I'll take a closer look at this, once the release noise starts to die down a little bit. But this looks really, really promising. Lior, you've got one.
Yeah, I'm just like one quick note. I think as you said, we'll take a closer look at this. I just got reminded, like, so one thing that can be useful in our agenda doc, I think in Istio community meetings, there is like a section which I believe is obsolete for sure, but like where like things that are in review or things that worth keeping an eye on, maybe it's nice to add it to our agenda doc, because like as an example, like I've been wanting to look at this for the last few weeks, but I've completely forgot. But then like every week when we open the agenda or something, or when I add something to the agenda, it'll probably be nice to kind of keep stuff in track, and then people could look at, because obviously I have it in my tasks or notes, but like it became so messy in the last few weeks, which I don't know, just throwing it out there, because this proposal looks like a good fit for there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can add it just like just throwing it out on this if someone have any objection, but if not, I can add some section, just a top level section, and just shove it in things there where people look for feedback and put there.
Yeah, I can put it in parking lot or something like that. Happy, or like docs and review. No issues for me on that. Happy to put it wherever folks like to see it.
Yeah, just small comments from you, Rob. I mean, you could continue with your
Right.
your stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Stephen, let's talk about Ingress Gateway. This is an impressive list. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thanks. Big shout out to, I don't think Coda is here from Tetrate, but he reviewed a lot of PRs. I think there are a few more I want to get in before we make a proper release. But now I'm starting to think about what are kind of the things we want to see in our release, not just around the code itself, but if we want to make what kind of documentation we want to have or blog posts. Hopefully I'm aiming by KubeCon EU or before the proper retirement. So that's it.
So yeah, I mean this is awesome. One thing I would say, this community has struggled to get blog posts out. We've gotten many blog posts out, but they've always taken longer than we thought they would. That's been the one consistent thing. So I would start, there's a process, Candace and Flynn and I think Ricardo have all, gotten blog posts out recently. You could ask them. My understanding of the process is you kind of post in SigDoc's blog, Kubernetes Slack, just saying, describing, and Becca, describing what you want to post about and your approximate timeline. Ricardo's strategy is spot on. Just use Gemini or whatever to write it now. I think in general, the blog maintainers are looking for at least a month heads up.
Oh my God.
A month
Okay.
advance notice.
That's a long
So
time.
like it is, and so if you're aiming for before KubeCon, that means start the discussion now basically. And then yeah, so that would be, you know, and I think we should absolutely have a blog post for this, and you are very clearly, you know, a great person to author it.
Yeah, I think Becca had the idea
Okay.
too, so we'll work together on it.
Well, yeah, if you're working with Becca, yeah, Becca's got recent blog post experience, so maybe he can help, you know, chart the course for that. The other one I would say is beyond just functionality, I think docs, right? Like really understanding. It may even be helpful for people who are, I don't know how much time you have to spend here, but like one of the things that I would be very curious about is you've got, you know, 15-ish annotations as, you know, first glance, I don't know, probably more. For Nginx Ingress in particular, it might be helpful to just kind of like have some docs that show this is our logic, right? So for Canary, this is what we do. For you know, timeouts, this is what we do. Like timeouts in particular, I know it was tricky to get the, you know, the logic right, and there were some, I don't want to call them hacks, but like if I remember, okay. Yeah. But like, you know, documenting the logic behind that, I think would be incredibly helpful. And it's possible that some people will just look at that documentation and not even, you know, like they'll probably use the tool, but the documentation will be a really helpful resource. And then kind of an open question for anyone on this call. I haven't really thought through where documentation for Ingress to Gateway should live. You know, it is very, very possible to have an Ingress to Gateway website that is unique and distinct from Gateway API. It is also very possible to just put the documentation on Gateway API's website. I don't have a really strong preference in the current, you know, current state. You know, the one thing I'll say about an Ingress to Gateway website is there's just some baseline infra work to get a new Netlify site up, a new domain, a new whatever. It's not that complex. It's just somewhat tedious, is what I would say. But I don't really have a strong preference. But if you or anyone else working on the project feels strongly one way or another, I'll defer to you on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think just putting it on Gateway API is probably the easiest.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds great. All right. Any other? I've monopolized the questions, comments, whatever. If anyone else have thoughts on this one?
No, okay, well, just thanks, Stephen, for all the work. I know, like, all the email, like, all my email is bombed with your name on it, so I appreciate you.
Yes,
you're doing all of it. So
I think that is it's a compliment.
Yeah,
thank you.
Stephen has I mean, I had to create a filter for Stephen and investigate on my Gmail to delete everything.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's okay.
That's a good thing. That's a good
thing.
Yeah. Man, you could really get away with some stuff right now, if no one's actually watching. But no.
Yeah. Who says I haven't?
No, I still get all the notifications. I'm still watching from a distance, and it's been impressive.
You can never get away from Rob.
Yeah, that's I've just given up on email sanity. My email inbox is just insane. Cool. All right. And then it looks like a very, very related proposal. Johanan, I probably got your name wrong. I don't know. How do you pronounce it?
Don't worry.
Okay.
I respond to all permutations. Thanks. So yeah, I've been sort of uneasy for a while now about Ingress to Gateway notifications. In case somebody's not familiar, we basically print a table of like things that the user might want to pay attention to when converting resources. The original concern was that I ran into a bunch of bugs, mostly around concurrency, because the Ingress Gateway end-to-end tests are implemented in a concurrent way, and they trigger notifications, and then there is some global state that never gets cleared, and then there is like leakage between test cases and all of that. So this is why I originally looked at that area of the code base. And then at some point I realized that, at least in my opinion, notifications are simply logs. I started looking into the code base and I saw that we basically recreated our own bespoke specialized logging mechanism. It has like log levels. It has instrumentation. We instrument the entire code base with like notify calls, but it's not logs. And we also have like a separate logging infrastructure. And sometimes we log exactly the same data with a notification and then with a proper logging statement. So what I'm proposing is to simply go all in and say notifications are logs. At the moment, at least, there is no other kind of log that we emit from Ingress to Gateway because it's not a service, it's a CLI utility, and anything that we log is ostensibly intended for the user to read as they're executing the tool. And the only reason I could find for using global state is so that we can accumulate the notifications gradually and then print them as a table. So it's just because of the table formatting that must be formatted at the end all at once that we even need to store logs, because otherwise, if we instrument the code, we could just print an ad hoc log line right away to std error and then continue executing. So this is what the proposal does. It basically redesigns this mechanism. It's a draft right now because I'm still reviewing my own code before alerting maintainers, because it's largely vibe coded. But yeah, I should be able to move it out of draft very soon. You have a screenshot that sort of demonstrates what a potential UX might look like without tables. So this is just ad hoc logging, but it still sort of allows you to distinguish which provider that is, and like I tried to make it easy to read. And the main reason the PR is so big is because basically all of the code base is instrumented with notify calls. So I replaced that using slog calls. So we have slog info, slog warning, slog error. Slog is just the idiomatic Go library nowadays to do structured logging. And we have two handlers, one for pretty colored text, which is what we're seeing right now. And there is also JSON for, I don't know, storing logs or parsing them. So yeah, happy to get feedback on that. I'll move it again out of draft soon. And there is also a linked issue which explains the rationale for this refactor in depth. Oh, and lastly, if we end up merging that, then in case we ever want to consume Ingress to Gateway as a library, then that already supports it, at least as far as logging is concerned, because you can pass a no-op logger if you don't want logs at all. You can pass a different logger. It basically gives us a nice separation of concerns between the instrumentation part and the actual logging infrastructure that gets used in the backend. So yeah, that's it about that.
Awesome. Yeah, Leo, you were first. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Again, I have this bug which I cannot see the other participants, but yeah. So that's great. I think so. To provide more context, this notifications was a intern project. I think, like intern or CNCF intern, GSOC, if I remember correctly. Anyway, but the thing is, like, we really wanted a table because, you know, when you try to convert things, especially like, you know, if you try to go to look at the Istio implementation, like there is a shit ton amount of logging, and not just logging, there's also assumptions, right? Sometimes, like, for example, things are not cleanly feed, like from Ingress or from like, especially from implementation specific stuff that's big on virtual service. And then the tool is just making assumption, right? I can give you a lot of examples like this, like if I open, but like the thing is, like, imagine when you convert a lot of the stuff, the logging become very, very messy. But at the end of the day, the consumer, like the user, will just want to know, hey, I got this printed, YAMLs, but I want to know what assumptions we're making, like what things weren't able to convert, what things were not, instead of just like scrolling infinitely to get all the logs. I understand this global state is maybe not ideal, but like I would really love to have some kind of a nice UX, whether it's still a table or something else, where like me as a user, I can just see, hey, this is the YAMLs, but this is all the assumptions that we're taking through the YAML. This is the unsupported fields, what I should pay attention to, what I should not. Yeah, this is just my 2 cents here.
I mean, the format right now looks fine to me.
Which?
The one on the screenshot.
No, that looks fine to you, but like if it's printed at a time where the actual log is actually being sent, then it's not easy to consume, right? Like you would want a report, like leave it whether a table or something, like a report. I don't care like if change it to somewhere else, but like I want a report where I can easily scan and say, hey, these are the assumptions that were taken. Here's the YAML path. I think there's support for YAML or JSON path, whatever. That like, we converted this from, again, I don't have any assumption in mind right now, but like I remember working with the intern on this.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I need to pay attention to. These are the things that weren't supported. So they were imported from virtual service and stuff like that. So I just want to read the report and read the YAMLs. I don't want to go and scroll and understand what happens.
You don't need to. Sorry for interjecting. So first of all, Lior, thanks. This is important context regarding notifications and the original rationale behind them. I want to clarify that the main thing that changes from a UX perspective is just the visual formatting, because right now you have 2 streams of text. One of them is std out, which is the YAML objects. The other std error, which is the logs. You don't have YAML objects and logs interlaced. So you might need to scroll a little bit more, because we have like a multi-line format, which is just one proposal that I had. We can change just the visual ordering of the screen, but you don't have like YAML, like a gateway API object and then a log line and then another object. The logs are definitely grouped. They're just not ordered necessarily according to provider, even though I suspect they will be when you execute multi-provider conversion. If you end up doing that, you can experiment with a tool. It looks neat on the screen. It doesn't look like messy and hard to track, but I agree that compared to table, you might have more lines, like more rows of text. And if that's a concern, we can have we can change the visual formatting to have a single line log. It would just be very long,
Yeah, I think this I don't think that's a huge concern for me, but like maybe we could play with the UX. But I think I was picking more on like, as far as I understood when you explained, you said that like, the reason we needed a global state is because like when you started to convert stuff, so the notify keeps it in a global state, and then at the end of the day you print it as a table. So I think he wasn't opposed to just like emit it right a second, you know what I mean? Because if you just have logs from the tool, leave like the notifications, like it will emit it right a second. Let's say I'm converting virtual service, then I log, then I'm gonna emit the log. Then I'm moving to a different field or a different virtual service in a different namespace, I'll get another log. I guess the whole point, and maybe you already retained it and it's good, the whole point is like these notifications should just be served as a report. So when I get the final YAMLs that I actually go and need to apply my cluster, I need to read it in conjunction with the report, because writing yours together is best effort. It will never be 100% correct because we don't have everything supported. So our guidance should just be read the YAMLs with the reports. If we can just have YAML path or like, field path, even better, because then I see, virtual service Lior.spec blah 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 wasn't converted. So then I can go and look what I want to do for the corresponding HTTP route or stuff like that. This is just, like if we all think this is a good format for the report, and somehow I didn't get into the implementation, you remove the global state, then it's great. But
we could treat it, we could name it a report. What I'm saying is that even though we do the logging ad hoc, in practice, in terms of user experience, you see like the whole invocation of the binary is instantaneous. You hit enter and you get everything, like all the objects, and before of that, all of the notifications, which are now just this new report format. But again, you don't see like a long running execution and then sporadic log lines appearing on your screen. If you play with the UX, I think you'll see what I mean. Again, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I missed something, but I played a bunch with the tool in the current form and after the refactor. And the only thing I can detect that's different in terms of UX is the visual design of the notifications, which is now this colored output rather than a table. The location on the screen is the same. It precedes the YAML objects. It's all grouped. It's not necessarily ordered by provider, but it might just because of the way, I don't remember if we're executing like an entire provider and then moving to the next one when you have multiple. I'll have to check. But let's say that there is no order guarantee because we are no longer accumulating notifications as global state, but it looks the same other than the format. In terms of ordering, when you see it, where it's written to, I couldn't find a difference. So if you just, for example, do if you pipe all the std out to dev null, you will see just what you call a report. And if you ignore std error, you'll see just the YAML. This hasn't changed, so because we have two separated streams of data as it is, and we just refactored the std error one.
Yeah, I guess if that's the case, I guess it's fine. Like I'm good with whatever you guys decide on the convenient way for seeing the report. I just like my important thing is that it's not just like sporadically you just have the log and people will need to look at it. And then like I'm good with what you and Steven and others are like, this is the best way to consume the report. Other than this, I'm fine.
Cool.
It would be great to have the YAML path though here. I'm not sure it's on the screen, but if we can retain it, I think that would be great.
Do you have the YAML what? I'm sorry, it's hard.
YAML path, like within the object, what is like sometimes in the Notify, you could just provide a field path. So exactly what's the, the YAML path, like, spec.x.y. You know what I mean?
I see. Maybe we can add that. I think what we have now is object. If you see the object field, it's the same field that we had in notifications, like in the table, but we can add more, something more detailed if that's useful, I think.
I think the information shown is the exact same, right? It's just the format.
It's literally the same.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I think there were other hands up again. I cannot see, but like maybe I'm wrong. But I think there was support for YAML path. Like,
and I think there still is.
What is it? What did you say?
Oh, I think that I don't know. We'll look at it, but I think your point is the information should stay the same, and I agree. I think we all agree.
Yeah, your point is, I take your point, Leo, regarding the YAML path. I think we can add that. I can guarantee that the data is the same. At least I couldn't detect differences because I literally converted notify calls to log.info or warning calls with the same key value pairs. So we just converted these arbitrary, I don't know what they're called in notifications, but it's like slog attributes. So we took the same fields. You can see it in the diff. But we can always add more information if that's missing. If like object right now is not really YAML path, so we might want to add something more detailed. I'm fine with that. Anyway, there's just a proposal. Happy to get some initial feedback once I move it out of draft, and we can change the format. We can also discard that, but I think it's useful because it does what I said with no global state, and at least I like it.
Yeah, no, so this is great. This may be a variation of what was already discussed, but two things. Well, they're very related. I am assuming that a non-trivial set of people are going to just want to output this to a file, and I guess that's a that is a flag. But I also imagine some people just running this and like piping it somewhere, right? And in the piping it somewhere mode, you would I imagine that you want any log lines to appear like to either just not appear at all or to appear as comments, YAML comments or something, like if they must. Maybe that's overkill, I don't know, but just a thought, like to make sure that we're supporting the case of people piping it to a file or so, people expecting valid YAML as an output. I guess that would be the.
I don't think that's an issue because you're probably once they're coming out of two different streams, right? Centered out and senator.
Yeah.
So it's unless you're piping them both to the same file, you're fine.
Yes,
okay.
I take your point, Rob. One point which we definitely need to address is that right now there is terminal color markings. We want to have no color if we want to write that to a text file. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to read. So that's one thing we might want to do. But yeah, as Steven said, separate streams. STD out is completely clean of any logging information.
Yeah,
Here,
okay, that's fair.
If you pipe the STD out to something, you should get the object, like kubectl apply or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
That was the case, by the way, notifications too. I didn't touch that. I just refactored the content of stdir, basically.
Awesome. Great. Cool. All right. Well, any other open questions there? This is, awesome to see all the progress going into Ingress to Gateway. This is, going to be awesome to see the 1.0 release. And every time I go, it seems like there's more interest in the project. So great work. And then E2E tests are merged. That's awesome. Anything more to say on this?
Just make people aware that they exist. They're merged. Please use them. Please shout at me if they're broken, and please add more test cases when you write features. That's it.
Do we have anything that runs these as like pre-submits or anywhere? Like,
we have an open PR test infra. I'm looking for an approval from another maintainer. We already got one approval, and then hopefully that should be enabled in the CI.
I'm guessing I don't have access to approve, but if I do, send it my way. Or even if I don't, I can still.
We can try, yeah. There's Tim Hawk in there, and I forget the other maintainer. We got
yeah. So if it's under just SIG network in general, I probably don't. I can approve some gateway things, but I don't think I can approve it. But anyway, send it my way, and I'm happy to see what I can do.
Chat, so
cool. All right. I think that may be all for today. Any last open topics for anyone? I will mention, I failed to mention this in the opening for release update. Because we're planning on doing a release candidate on Thursday, that's pretty intentional. Before we do a release candidate, we take this API, this planned release, and we present it to SIG Network. And that is scheduled for the SIG Network meeting that is occurring Thursday morning. So usually that's just a formality. There is a chance that we go there and they don't like something that we've done and we have to reevaluate. But just a heads up, if you want to be part of that, see what kind of feedback we get. That's Thursday. Basically at the 10 minutes from now, but on Thursday. So 48 hours and 10 minutes from now. And otherwise, have a great week, everyone. And we'll see you around. Thanks, folks.
Yeah,
thanks a lot. Bye-bye.